Welcome, everyone, to the Pearl and the Echo podcast. I'm your co-host, Dori Sim, and with me, I've got Jim Rajan. As always, we will start with 3 deep breaths before we get into today's quote. So in through your nose and out through your mouth if you like. You can also close your eyes if in a safe environment to do so. Once more, in through the nose. Let your body expand, fill that air, and let it all out. And one last time, just like that, take the biggest breath you've taken today. And let it all go. Slowly come back to the space. And Jim, tell me, what quote did you bring?
Yes, Dori. It's a wonderful one. And it's by Oscar Wilde, and it goes like this: to live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people just exist, that is all. To live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist, that's all. I think both of us, we like a good bit of Oscar Wilde. And what draws me to this one is, I do live, but I am alive, aren't I? I'm living, and I go to work, and I do my stuff, and I come home, and yeah, this is life, isn't it? Is this not life? And I don't think it is. I think there's so much capacity for depth of richness of life when one is really present. And it feels to me that what he's saying is to be present is the rarest thing in the world. To be really, really here, because we're all most of the time in our mind, thinking about stuff, anxious about stuff, worrying about what's going to happen next, worrying about the fact that I said this and maybe this person doesn't like me anymore, or worrying about the fact that my boss said this and what's going to happen. We're all freaking out about uncertainty. And so we're all so worried about certainty and, all right, how can I make everything certain and therefore predictable and therefore really, really mediocre? And how can I make sure I don't rock the boat so everything kind of stays the way it is? Because I think I'm happy in this, even though I'm not happy in this. But if I pretend I'm happy where I am, then maybe I'll get more of the same and everything will be all right. It's like, no, let's go for the adventure. The more one really allows oneself the livingness of the adventure, the more cool stuff happens. It's as simple as that. And we don't even realize we're doing it. But you see people, like when you get these like farm horses, like big Shire horses, and they've got the blinkers on so they can't see anything apart from what's here. And there are so many people I find who don't even mean to get themselves into that state, but unwittingly do, and then wonder why life just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then they're complaining about how small and boring life is and how unfair everything is. And then we're all complaining that someone didn't take the trash out properly or the street cleaner didn't do their job properly. We start picking at the tiny little things. And it's true, to live is to really, really adventurously live is such a rare thing, because actually it kind of seems like it's going to be really scary and dangerous and full of risk. But the not living is kind of riskier, because all you get is the same over and over again. And even that gets smaller and smaller and smaller after a while, until there's kind of nothing there apart from you and how unhappy you are and how awful the world is or life is. There's this quote that I don't know if it's Einstein or not, but we've kind of brushed over it before here, of I believe that the universe is a positive place or a negative place. And I think when really just be like, let's go eat life and see what happens, we inherently have the idea that therefore the universe is not going to kill us, or we're not going to die, that interesting things will happen. And then they do. Dori, so how does that land with you?
Yeah. And why does it have to be positive or negative? Why can't it just be? Because I feel like, of course, there's very positive and very negative things that happen to us, but there's a whole spectrum in there. And if you want this visual, go to YouTube. But I've got my feelings wheel. Everything is a spectrum. All our feelings, all our experiences, every moment could be a completely different color. And so it's not black and white. It's not positive and negative. It's usually a mix. And I feel if you're just operating on autopilot, it is going to be one color all of the time, most of the time. And you're going to get bored, and maybe you won't even know that you're bored, but somewhere a part of you knows, because you're just dying in a way, like you're spirit is dying. And so to me, taking the risks, doing things that you've never done before, that's what life is all about. And it doesn't have to cost anything. It could just mean taking a different route home from work. It could mean going to a different park this weekend. It doesn't have to be this extravagant thing. But if you don't listen to yourself, I'll bring another quote in that I'm sure I've said before because it's from one of my favorite movies, Waking Life. Most people are sleepwalking through their waking life. And it's a movie about lucid dreaming. I highly recommend it. And so if you're just sleepwalking through your waking life and you're this zombie that gets up, gets ready, goes to work, comes back, has dinner, sits in front of the TV, and then goes to sleep and then repeats that the next day. Is that living? Is that life? I
Yeah.
mean, I've been there. I've done that hamster wheel thing and it sucks. That's probably when I felt the least alive. And you know that it's destroying you because there's a part of you that can feel it. You're on this kind of capitalist treadmill and you can pay your bills, but is it worth it? So many times when I was in that space, I remember you telling me, I'm not telling you to quit your job, but you should quit your job. And every time I was like, what if I did? I really want to. And then I got laid off. So that was a blessing in disguise. Those months when I had time off were like some of the best months of my life. I could do whatever I wanted. And to me, you can do that anytime, job or not. You can do whatever you want. And it's usually just society, maybe your parents, how you were raised, sometimes even your friends, your partner, your friend group. They're saying that's wrong or that's not normal or you shouldn't be that way. Like your life is so good. You don't need anything more. And I'll quote Queen because to me, it's like, no, I want it all and I want it now. Right?
Yeah.
This is my one and only life. So
Yeah, you
you
get
have to
one
make the best
chance.
of it. Yeah. You have to make the
Yeah.
best of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and just the idea of kind of adventure or living an adventurous life or, oh my God, to quit my job. I've done that a couple of times where I was just like, I'm done. I am done with this. I'm leaving. And I didn't have anything else to go to. And it was well paid and had status and everything. And just the release of being able to have life on my own terms was incredible. Yeah, there are the big ones of quit your job, but also what one little thing can you do to give yourself that feeling of aliveness? Because in the great thing is that in the feeling of aliveness, your perception is different. And then you see other things that you wouldn't have seen anyway. You know, if you're forever with your head down going through life like this, then you don't see all of the other things. But if you give yourself the chance to experience just a tiny bit, then life reciprocates and it goes, hold on, finally Jim's woken up. Let's give him this thing and see what he does with it. And it's somebody is going to listen to this and say, yeah, it's easy for you to say, but I'm exhausted and I can't change and I can't get rid of my job or just I can't change because all my obligations and responsibilities are so intertwined with each other that I'm stuck. Yeah, maybe, but then don't focus on the problems. Don't focus or define yourself as I'm stuck in this mess. Allow yourself to feel in your body that there are possibilities or that life can be different, or just sit and imagine for 5 minutes. I'm not a believer in manifesting at all. Having said that, just sitting and picturing other things changes how your body kind of functions. All you've got to do is sit and have a feeling that gives your body endorphins, and then you feel better, and then you'll go into a situation where you would have dealt with it in one way, but now because you're feeling nice, you're like, no, actually, yeah, I will have a glass of champagne. No, or yes, I will do that thing.
Yeah.
And then something happens that wouldn't have happened if you had carried on just existing.
Yeah, I feel that. I recently learned how to put on a glamour. And so if you're into witchy things, it's kind of just a way to tap into a part of yourself that is probably already there, but you want to make it stronger. And I had a choir performance coming up. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to tap into my inner performer, right? I'm on stage, I'm doing my best. And it was incredible because I've had this cough for the last few weeks because I had a cold. And so during the dress rehearsal, my plan was to try to get through it without coughing, and same with the show. But when I put on this persona of I'm a professional, I'm a performer, I'm here to do my thing and sing with these people in this choir, I hit all of the high notes that I didn't think I would be able to hit. I had a speaking role at one point, which went really well. And that mindset of this is going to be amazing, this is going to go exactly as I want it to, if not better, because I am a natural performer and I've done this before, et cetera, et cetera. And it went way better than I thought it would. And so the power of the mind is so strong, not only in getting us to these places that we want to be, but also in bringing us down, right? In fact, I think it's probably better at bringing us down and telling us, you're not good enough. You can't do this. What are you thinking? Starting this podcast with Jim. What are you thinking? Trying to start a band. What are you thinking? Et cetera, et cetera. There's so many limiting beliefs, but if you enter a mind state where you tell yourself, no, like I'm a naturally born singer, musician, artist, and you just live your life like that, and whatever, fill in the gap for yourself, cook, dancer, teacher, parent, there's a shift. Things just shift in your mind and in your body, and you feel different, and then you act different. And it's this incredible tool that we all have. So I'm curious for you, what are you working on in that realm? Because we're all changing, you and I, always changing, always growing. For me, I really want to be moving every day. I want to be stretching every day, taking care of my body every day. I don't do that as much as I would like. Still, I feel like we could always be doing more. And the other thing is music. I want to be doing something musical every day, whether it's playing one of the many instruments that I've decided to collect in my place, or singing, or whatever it is. But I think everyone has at least one thing that they're trying to get back.
Yeah. I was kind of asked to make a load of content for an app that eventually didn't work, and so then I was just left with all these ideas, and I thought I'm going to do something with this, and I wrote a short story that became a longer story that's now not kind of novel length, but it's about 35,000 words, and it's a bit autobiographical. And whether I ever print it or not, I have no idea. But all the way through it, I was kind of sitting there going, yeah, but I'm not a writer, and I don't write novels, and I don't even know how to write a novel, and I made the schoolboy error of starting it at page 1 and finishing it at the end without making any idea of structure or how it would flow or anything. But I did it, and I'm still kind of playing with it. And that gave me loads of confidence of I'm the kind of person who just writes a novel. And I read a bit of Hero's Journey, and I watched things like the first Star Wars film to help me understand character development and things like that. And I came to that place of I like to do these things, and I'm allowed to do these things. I was just kind of playing earlier on the internet, and there's another Oscar Wilde quote that goes, most people are other people, and their thoughts and opinions are actually somebody else's thoughts and opinions. And that can sound kind of harsh, and we would sit there and go, well, how dare you, because that's not true, because no, I am me. But
Yeah.
often we are copying everyone around us so much that we forget to be ourselves.
Yeah.
And so to stop doing what everyone else is doing because they know the special formula, and if they succeeded in this way, I'll do that. Whatever Steve Jobs did, I'll do that, and then I'll be successful. Then that's not you, and you're missing out on the experience, aren't you? You could have had this amazing experience, and instead you just tried to be someone else and do their way, and you forgot to be you. So
Yeah. It's funny. I love that quote. It finishes with their lives a mimicry, their passions a quotation, which is really funny because this is basically a quote of the week podcast. But it's really funny because maybe it's been like 2 months now. I think we talked about it a little bit when we talked about grief a few episodes ago. Just this incredible time of where I was reflecting on when my biological father died. And I couldn't even really talk about that when we taped that podcast, but all of this stuff was just flowing out of me, and I wrote it all down. I haven't looked at it, but I feel like, we're maybe 20 episodes into this podcast, and I think maybe once every how many ever episodes you and I should think about putting in like a Jim quote or a Dori quote. They're out there. We've said them or we've written them down. And I think that'll be kind of fun for our listeners. I feel the same way about my writing. I've been writing a lot of poetry lately, and more than half of it I haven't shown to anyone. And I went back recently to this self-published book of poetry and short stories that I wrote when I was in university because I did a creative writing class. And I'm reading this stuff and I'm just like, who wrote this? And I know how I wrote it back then, right? I thought that using big words was so important. So I would pull out thesaurus and I would be like, okay, what's the most complicated sounding word that I can use instead of love or pain or whatever it is? And then I would put that word in. And so I'm like, this is so pretentious, like it's just so inaccessible as a piece of art. And all you can do is laugh at your younger self and take the good poems that actually make sense and then take the ones that are a little bit more highbrow and leave those to the side. But now I'm just really writing from the heart. And because I know that most of it maybe won't be shared, but maybe I should start sharing it. I don't know. I'm trying not to edit myself as I go along. I'm trying to just let it out. And maybe it's just a journal entry, and maybe it's a love poem. Maybe it's a poem about grief. I'm trying not to be too much of a critic. And a lot of that is inspired by the quote we talked about last time from Andrea Gibson. Their publisher was like, maybe like 100 words and you've managed to put them together in 50 different ways in this book. They're not using a thesaurus, right? They're making art. And so I think we get in our own way. And I feel like many of us are living other people's lives, maybe the lives that our parents wanted for us or that society thinks that we should be having. And some of us aren't. And it's never too late to start living that life that you want, right? The one that is going to make you feel alive. So give it to us one more time, Jim.
Yeah. So to live is the rarest thing in the world. Most people exist. That is all. Yeah. Let me just finish on this. I think a lot of us copy the greats, and there are amazing people in this world, and we come into the world and we're young and we don't have a clue about things, and we kind of copy what's out there. But at some point, you kind of have to let go of that and do it your own way, don't you? So yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. Really hope you enjoyed that. Please feel free to comment and share our work. And we hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Pearl and the Echo podcast with me, Dori Sim, and my co-host, Jim Rajan. Thank you to Rebel Mixtape Productions for editing this episode. If you like what you heard, like, subscribe, and share with those in your life that matter most.